Welcome, everyone. It's so good to see everybody coming in. We're going to probably kick off in just a minute. But I just want to say to everyone here, welcome to 2024. This is our first meeting of the new year. And so we're excited for a really exciting and interesting topic. I'm going to stop rambling and let Jomia say some stuff now. How's that?
I don't know, I think you stole half of what I was gonna say. So, welcome to 2024. Happy New Year. It is the first SSPI-WISE meeting that we have this year, and there's a lot that's going to go on for the years for the upcoming year. We have quite a few of our events planned. Next month we also have another speaker, one of our working group leads actually, Heidi Ann White. She will be speaking to us also about STEM, so look forward to that. And as we mentioned at the end of last year, oftentimes we have people who are really interested in helping out, but they don't know where to get started. So on the SSPI-WISE website that we started up last year, you can find a lot of different links. There's links to resources. So if you're interested in taking a look at awards that are going on, or scholarships, or more about the mentoring program, the website is getting developed overall, but there's a lot of stuff on it already. So if you go to the WISE website and go to opportunities and resources under get involved, there's a lot of help that we need across the program. So definitely check it out and see if you want to get involved in something. One thing to highlight is I don't know if people heard about our podcast. We do have an SSPI-WISE podcast. Right now, Tamara is heading that up, but she would definitely appreciate more help on that. We just released our first podcast of the year, featuring Divya and Tamara. Who did Divya do the podcast with?
Yes, pioneer of Indian space, Pramoda Hegde, who is one of the very first women in the Indian space program. And it was a phenomenal interview. So I do hope everyone checks out SSPI podcast and listen to the SSPI WISE Presents conversation, which was called From Village to Space. So very cool.
So check that podcast out. And if you want to get involved in helping to coordinate the podcast, find people, talk with people, do the recording, all of these are really good skills for career development in general, and would really help out the group as well. So definitely check out how to get involved. Otherwise, we have many of our working groups looking for people to support, especially for elevating women and STEM outreach, but definitely the other groups as well. With that, Julie, do you think you're ready?
Yeah, almost. Give me 1 second. We are converting to analog. I'm printing out my notes so that I can actually present it. Thanks, everyone. We're having some weird technical difficulties. PowerPoint won't let me see the presenter view and the display at the same time for some reason.
No problem. I think it's
now the
early
restart
for
worked,
the
actually.
computer. Okay.
But
with
background. So
that,
give me like 1 more minute. You can
well,
feel free
no
to
problem, because Audrey will do the intro. So Audrey, who's our lead from the STEM Outreach Working Group, who has coordinated with talking with Julie today. I think I'll turn it over to you, Audrey.
Well, we are super excited to have Julie with us today. She is a chief engineer with a major satellite program for Boeing, and she was recently recognized by SSPI in the 2023 20 under 35 award cohort. And she was actually a winner of the Promise Award as well. So we're very excited to have a Promise Award winner with us today. And Julie is also very active in the STEM outreach world as a champion and author of her best-selling book, Pull, Don't Push, Why STEM Messaging to Girls Isn't Working and What to Do Instead. And this is the topic of her conversation today. So we asked her here to talk to us about her book and her experiences and help us figure out how to get more young women involved in STEM. So over Julie's career, she's worked on a wide range of space programs, including the Space Launch System, the Starliner crew vehicle, the SWAT Earth observing satellite, and the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. And while she was at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, she was the lead engineer for the radar instrument of the Europa Clipper mission, which is actually set to launch this year in 2024 to study the oceans of Europa and search for extraterrestrial life. So that should be really exciting. I'm sure that she's excited to see her instrument used.
Yeah,
Julie
keep your fingers
has
crossed for me.
I will. Julie's volunteered with K-12 STEM outreach for more than a decade. So she's absolutely qualified, and we're excited to hear her perspectives from her time period doing this. And she serves as a board member for the Engaging Girls in STEM program with the Los Angeles County Office of Education and as a national supervisor for the Science Olympiad organization. And she lives with her husband and her growing family in Los Angeles and is the proud mother of 2 twin boys who I hear are down for their naps. And she has a girl on the way. So congratulations. And we hope that you will have all the tools you need to bring her into the STEM community as well. So if you're ready, we'd love to hear what you have to share with us today. And we just see your presentation, so it's perfect.
See it now? Okay, awesome. Yeah. Excellent. I think I got it working.
Before we begin, also, if you have any questions for Julie as we're moving along, put them in the chat, and at the end, I'll moderate questions with her. So take it away.
Okay.
And really quick, there's a bar on the top if you can move the Zoom bar over.
That's the your screen sharing bar.
Yeah, just drag it.
I'll just drag it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're still seeing the right screen?
You're good. Okay,
Yeah,
you're good.
There it is.
Whew, okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for that intro, Audrey. I'm really excited to be here with everyone today. It's honestly just so great to see so many people interested in getting girls excited about STEM. But I have some bad news for all of you. STEM outreach isn't working anymore. In fact, we haven't been seeing any gains in the national statistics for the last 20 years. Growth is stagnant. The numbers have plateaued. We're not doing enough to pull girls in, and in some cases, we're actually pushing them away. There is some good news, though. Women are now earning more than... Remember those kids we mentioned? Yeah, that's them if you hear them. We have some good news, though. Women are now earning more than half of all bachelor's degrees in the sciences and a little less than half in math. This is great and deserves congratulations. In this regard, the encouragement young women have received to study science and math has paid off. But now, the bad news. Women earn only about 20% of bachelor's degrees in engineering and technology-related majors. We have not achieved the same gains in engineering and technology as we have in science and math. Now, the really bad news. These numbers are actually worse than they seem. The math and science fields combined are only about 1/5 of all jobs available in STEM fields. There are more than twice as many engineering jobs in the American market as there are in science and math put together. That means that even reaching parity or close to it in science and math degrees or career field still couldn't put very many women into the STEM workforce. As of 2019, 86% of engineering jobs were still filled by men. Today, most of the hard work and efforts of educators, outreach coordinators, and volunteers is only maintaining the status quo. Outreach of the past got us where we are today, and that's good. But what got us here won't get us where we need to be. We have to work smarter, not harder. So what's happening? How is it that we can be making so much effort without putting a dent in the national statistics? Well, for starters, in the past, there hasn't been any guidebook for how to do any of this. Instead of creating programs and events that follow any sort of philosophy or methodology, organizers often do what everyone else does without really knowing why. The whole point of STEM outreach is to help girls learn about their career options in these fields. Unfortunately, the career option with the most jobs available and the highest average salary, engineering, often goes unmentioned. Here lies the key to putting more women in STEM. Encourage them to pursue engineering. If we reach gender parity in the workforce, we could add upwards of 1.5 million women to the American STEM marketplace. 1.5 million. That's 50 new female engineers for every existing female biologist. And the field of biology has already reached gender parity in the workforce. The path for more girls to enter STEM is through engineering's door. But I'm not surprised that so few young women follow this path. They don't know about it. Engineering is not taught in K-12 schools, and it's barely covered at outreach events, if mentioned at all. When I talk to educators and outreach coordinators, I often hear the same thing. They don't know how to sell engineering to kids because they literally don't know what engineers do. I get it. It's a big and sometimes confusing field. But if they don't know anything about it, then it's no wonder the girls don't either. One study done by Intel showed that 2/3 of teenagers have never even considered a career in engineering, with the leading reason being that they were simply unfamiliar with the field. But then, after the group was exposed to information about the field, more than half of them said they were now interested. What we have is a marketing and information problem. That's great news. A marketing and information problem is vastly easier to solve than any other type of problem. It doesn't require overhauling society to solve it. More importantly, it doesn't require changing the girls we're trying to reach. We just need to focus our message on giving girls the information they need. That's where you and I come in. As professionals working in engineering, we can have a huge positive impact on outreach programs, as long as we go about it in the right way. And I'm here to give you the tools to do just that. I'm going to teach you how to pull, don't push. First, I want to give you a little bit of my background. I'm an engineer. I love what I do, and I love sharing that excitement with kids, especially girls. When I look back to when I was growing up, the behaviors I exhibited, the activities I pursued, it's shocking that no one ever really suggested that I pursue engineering. This is why I love doing outreach. I can help connect the dots for so many girls that would make great engineers and love what they do, if only they knew enough to consider it. I've spent over a decade in K-12 STEM outreach. I speak at events, give kids tours of where I work, and am instrumental in numerous programs designed to help girls interface with professional women in STEM. Over the years, I've seen a lot of what works and what doesn't. This is what sparked my desire to help outreach coordinators and volunteers work smarter instead of harder, and what ultimately led me to write this book. And to give you a bit more of my professional background, here's what my career has looked like so far. In middle school, I started participating in the Science Olympiad competition. I built model airplanes and rockets. I made robots and balsa wood bridges. This was where I got my start with engineering, even though no one was calling it that to me. After high school, I went on to study electrical engineering at Caltech. And it was honestly when I was picking out my college major that I think I first applied the word engineering to my interests. Way too late in my opinion, which again is why I believe so strongly in the importance of engineering outreach programs. Then during college, I spent a few summers interning at SpaceX, where I helped develop avionics for the Falcon 9 rocket. After college, I found my first dream job at the NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory here in Los Angeles, JPL. And when I joined the team, I first worked on an Earth satellite, this one in the lower left, called SWAT, which is now flying and helping to improve climatology models by measuring ocean height at the centimeter scale across the entire world. After that, I was a lead engineer on the Europa Clipper mission, specifically for the radar instrument, which will measure ice on the surface of Jupiter's moon Europa to help search in the search for alien life. So the spacecraft, which with the hardware I designed on it, will be launching later this year. So fingers crossed for a good launch. It's going to take a while to get there, but we got to get started on the journey first. Then I found my next dream job working at Boeing, first as a project manager on the Space Launch System rocket. Now I've also worked on a few other satellites, including our O3b constellation program for SES. And today I'm a chief engineer for this beautiful 702 MP satellite that we're developing for an Indonesian communications company, SNL, which should also be launching this year. And for many of you, I'm certainly so excited to even have a picture that's this detailed. It's actually zoomed in before everything's blanketed up. And luckily our customer wanted a good PR image and they put it on the internet and I was the first one to download it. You'll know that. When I go to STEM events, these are the types of things I tell the girls about. All of the cool things I work on, what I'm actually doing at work, the reasons I enjoy it, and the reasons I'm happy that I found this career path. And over the years, it became incredibly clear to me that these were the same things that were getting the girls I talked to excited about what a future in engineering might hold for them as well. I know it's working because over the years, I've collected a little treasure trove of emails and LinkedIn messages from girls that attended these events. And they reached out for advice or to let me know, sometimes years later, that they were starting college and majoring in engineering. But there was one particular outreach event that I remember that was, in my opinion, a complete and utter disaster. And it's the reason this book exists today. The speaker gave what from the outside seemed like a great and inspiring talk to a room of about 200 girls. But the longer I sat in the audience listening, the madder and madder I was getting. I even started feverishly taking notes on the exact words that she was saying. What I realized then was that while the surface level of the talk sounded like a noble hero's journey to overcome injustice, when you read into it deeper, she was leaving the girls with a frightening picture that was surely scaring many of them away. I walked out of that room knowing with complete certainty that the girls in that room would be less likely to pursue STEM careers, not more. Then, over the next few days, I realized that I had heard these same types of things at almost every event I had ever volunteered for. All of that negativity and well-intentioned but ultimately damaging messaging was harming our cause. And it was this realization that led me to spend the next 3 years researching and writing this book. So let's dive into the strategies that came out of all of it. First, rule number 1 of successful outreach: don't push. We have to stop feeding dated narratives and cementing the stereotypes that we're trying to dispel. Kids have a certain kind of messaging pushed on them. One that tells them that women in STEM have to be tough as nails, work twice as hard with little support, and be martyrs for the cause. That messaging is scaring girls away. The purpose of these events is to get girls interested in STEM careers. Dwelling on the negatives doesn't do that. It's having the opposite effect. When we keep talking about the negatives, when we're glorifying the struggles, we're causing a lot of girls to quit before they start. And why wouldn't they? They've just been given a perfectly rational, evidence-based justification to choose a different career. Even when we're honoring the trailblazer women that fought so hard to make the industry better for those of us today, we're often unknowingly preventing future progress. And you can bet that what those women want more than an award or recognitions for their struggles is to see these girls succeed rather than be held back by a dated narrative that pushes them away. Consider another organization that is focused on recruitment, the Navy. They have a slogan of "Join the Navy, see the world," not "Join the Navy, have a really hard time on a boat for a while." If girls don't learn about the positives, what could possibly make any of the challenges worthwhile? Focusing on the positives is literally marketing 101. So here are some of the most common messaging styles that are well-meaning, but ultimately aren't helping. And here are the better, more positive alternatives. Let's go through each one. So first, the phrase male-dominated. You'd be surprised by how many times you hear this come up in otherwise well-meaning content. Does this phrase give you the impression that you can happily join the field if you aren't male? Of course not. And it sets up this win-lose fighting paradigm. Honestly, most men would love for there to be more women in engineering. We can just as easily reframe this instead to tell girls that there are lots of opportunities for women. Truth be told, lots of companies are working hard to improve their ratios, which makes women hot commodities in the job market today. Next, the hero's journey. This is talking about the trailblazers. This is going into excruciating detail, explaining how horrible people were to women who wanted to break into places where women weren't before. But the fact of the matter is that most of these stories are decades in the past. There are far fewer of them happening each day. And by the time the girls at these events graduate and get into the workforce, it'll be even better than what we see now. If you want to talk about the stories of the struggles of women that came before, it's imperative that you capstone that story with saying the situation is much, much better now. Martyrdom. What I mean by this is any time we tell the girls that STEM needs them, or that it's their duty to combat discrimination in STEM. This has always struck me as treating the girls like a group with a hive mind, rather than treating each girl as an individual with her own wants and desires. This is why I'm such an advocate for including the more quote-unquote selfish benefits of engineering careers. Girls need to know what's in it for them. And truth be told, the personal benefits that come with careers in engineering are pretty great. Lastly, pinkification. This is the term coined for any time a program bends over backwards to translate STEM to girls. Think the science of makeup, or quite literally making everything flowery with sparkles. Girls sniff out this type of underhanded tactic immediately. The subtext is that girls aren't naturally interested in these fields and therefore need convincing. I don't think girls think STEM isn't girly enough. I think they sense that people are trying to convince them of something, and they don't like being treated like a resource in someone else's game. There are so many great realities associated with careers in engineering, which we'll talk about more in a later section, that just explaining those to the girls is more than enough to get them interested. Another unfortunate way most outreach pushes away is being unable to answer some very fundamental questions for the girls. What is engineering? What do engineers do? And to be honest, it's actually quite challenging to come up with a good, succinct explanation that ties together all of the subdisciplines and industry applications. But what is very clear is that the two most common definitions really fall short of what is needed. First, a classic. Engineering is the application of math and science. You have definitely heard this one before. It is in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, but I strongly disagree. This definition wrongly conflates the three fields. Are they related? Sure. But you can't define a career by some of its tools. You know, the craft of Michelangelo, Picasso, Van Gogh cannot be reduced to the application of paintbrushes and paint. To make matters worse, this definition is actually a deterrent to a lot of kids. By overly emphasizing math and science, they self-select out of engineering if they aren't the top of their class in both. And last time I checked, none of us on this call probably are sitting around solving calculus problems on paper by hand anyways. This one's not right. Moving on. This next definition is very popular too. Engineers build stuff. What it promises in simplicity, it does not deliver in correctness though. In fact, very few engineers are the ones doing the building. The majority of the hands-on activity that implies are done by technicians or machines or other skilled labor. And this statement can be made slightly more helpful as engineers design stuff, but even then, not all engineers are design engineers, and we don't want to leave out all of the other types of engineers. Here's a much better answer. Engineers work creatively in teams to solve problems that help people. This captures something closer to the true essence of what we do as engineers, and it speaks to the necessary characteristics that make people actually successful as engineers. Better yet, it embeds a lot of the key themes that actually have incredibly strong appeal amongst girls. This is the foundation for the other half of our solution. Rule number 2 of successful outreach, pull. The biggest barrier to more girls choosing engineering is simple. They don't know about it. It's rarely taught in schools, barely covered at outreach events, if mentioned at all. Girls don't even consider engineering, primarily because they're simply unfamiliar with the field. We can pull girls in by exposing them to information about what engineering is and how a career in engineering would benefit them and the world. And who's best suited to provide real-world examples to the girls? It's you. Interacting with professional engineers, especially women, has hands down the most impact. You can paint a detailed picture of what your career in engineering looks like and why you chose it. You understand what you do much better than their teachers or parents ever could. You can explain how your career path offers the things you value most in a career and how it enables your life outside of work. That information is what each girl needs to make an informed decision about whether or not engineering is the right path for her. We don't have to coerce girls to convince them that engineering is a great option. There's no need to sell them, just tell them. Let's talk about how. The first thing to tell them about is money and stability. I was speaking at an event a few years ago, and during my presentation, I explained that engineers are very well rewarded. And I said that studying engineering is basically a guarantee you'll be well paid for the rest of your life. All over the room, girls started sitting up in their seats and paying even closer attention. To prove my point, I showed them a table from a study that ranks college majors by the average income they lead to. 9 of the top 10 highest earners, are engineering degrees. The first non-STEM degree was ranked all the way down at 24th. Apparently, my money positive message to these girls was so effective that they started asking the other professional volunteers point blank with no reservation, "So how much money do you make?" I loved it. Girls don't know that it's weird to ask that question, but they definitely want to know the answer. Money definitely isn't the only reason to pick a career, but it's an important facet to consider and one that girls often don't hear much of anything about. Another aspect that resonates especially well with girls is the stability that can be found in an engineering career. Taking on student loan debt is a type of risk, and an engineering degree is a pretty safe bet that they'll be able to pay it off in a reasonable time period. Similarly, engineers have very strong employment numbers, and the degree is one of the least regretted categories of all. This audience, especially being in the aerospace industry, definitely has some high salaries on the call. So don't be shy. money is actually one of the simplest and most impactful things to talk about with kids. Now the next key theme, helping people and collaborating. Ultimately, what engineers do is solve problems for people. We make the world a better place. Our entire modern day existence is built on an ecosystem of engineering marvels, big and small. From the satellites flying overhead to the cell phones in our pockets. From high efficiency agriculture to the refrigerators we keep that food in. Engineering is everywhere around us. And helping people goes hand in hand with wanting to work well with people. One excellent study that was done by the Girl Scouts showed that 80% of girls responded saying that collaborating and working with others was very important to them in choosing a career. It's an obvious fact that to be successful as an engineer, you have to be good at working with other people. And what do you know? The statistics also tell us that on average, girls tend to have better teamwork and communication skills. Now, this is another really important one, work-life balance and a fast track. Most girls want a career that is part of their life, not their entire life. It's important to look at what the auxiliary impacts of a career choice are when deciding. And when we explain how engineering careers can enable a very rich life, in the fullest sense of the word, that is something the girls really, really want to hear. Because engineers are so valuable to companies, companies have to treat us well in return. Good amounts of vacation, good benefits, flexibility where possible. All of this translates to enabling engineers to have full lives outside of work, hobbies, travel, whatever. Also, telling girls that engineering offers a fast track is incredibly appealing. The majority of engineering jobs do not require graduate school. In most areas, you can get on with your life and career after just 4 years of undergraduate study. I'm an example. I only have a bachelor's and I think it's going fine. Add that to a very healthy culture of mentorship that can accelerate their careers even faster. And what you're left with is another crucial piece to the appeal of engineering careers for most women. Being an engineer doesn't mean you have to choose between your career and starting a family. You can have both comfortably on a timeline that won't be cause for concern. For me personally, with twin boys and another girl on the way, I'm incredibly thankful that I'm in this career path. Then the final messaging theme to focus on is this: creativity and fulfillment. Creativity is a word that tends to only get associated with artistic careers like music and the visual arts. When surveyed, 78% of girls agreed that being in a career that requires creativity was important to them in choosing a career path. Engineering is an incredibly creative pursuit, but very few girls ever hear that. Engineering is also quite literally creative in that it is the field responsible for creating so many new things. And the problem solving we do is creative too. Sometimes it's the out-of-the-box suggestions that make everything work. One of my favorite examples of this phenomena in action was with the landing of the Sojourner rovers on Mars. Led by engineer Donna Shirley of JPL, the team had to tackle how to get the vehicle down to the surface safely. They determined that conventional methods wouldn't be enough to slow it down. I wish I could have been a fly on the wall in the room when they arrived on their final solution. I imagine it went something like this. Everyone was throwing out different ideas, seeing if they could tweak the planned parachute to make it work or add more retro rockets, until someone in the room spoke up and asked a question. What if it was just a big bouncy ball? And that's exactly what they did. Sojourner made it down to the surface of Mars, with its final slowdown being the result of simply bouncing around on Mars in a big inflatable until it finally came to rest and the rover was able to safely drive out. Imagine the sense of deep career fulfillment that team would have felt seeing their idea take shape and then successfully land on Mars with how wacky it sounds. Creativity and engineering let them and all of us here do amazing, incredible, big things. Solving huge problems and being immersed in them with focus and determination, that is what makes what we do more than a job. It becomes a calling. And sharing that passion with girls, that feeling of accomplishing something huge, or just figuring out some little problem that has been bothering you for weeks, that feeling is something worth celebrating. And it's something that is inspiring to anyone who listens. We've covered a lot of ground today. Now you have a fundamental understanding of the strategy of how to make STEM outreach effective again. Now it's all about turning those strategies into tactics. I've dedicated a third of my book to doing just that. And I've made all of the cheat sheets and resources available for free to download on my website. Whether it's in a formal setting like an organized outreach event, or an informal setting like talking with your niece or chatting with an intern, I encourage you to use these. My goal is to help educators, outreach coordinators, and volunteers like you work smarter and harder. If the only thing you do is download this one talking points handout and read it before you go into an interaction that's supposed to inspire kids about engineering and their future, I would be so happy. So please use this, print it, share it, anything you want. Congratulations. Now you have everything you need to be an effective ambassador for engineering. You know that focusing on engineering is how we can add millions more women to STEM in the next decade. You know how to avoid negative messaging that pushes girls away, and you know the positive themes that pull them in most effectively. You are the key to the puzzle of how we get more women into STEM. By talking with girls and proving by example that engineering can offer them a wonderful opportunity for a creative career and a life they'll love. By helping them learn, you are making a difference in the world. And someday the girls you are helping will too. So thank you so much for joining today and tuning in. If you'd like to learn more, Pull Don't Push is available on Amazon, and also the audiobook version is available on Audible for anyone else like me who loves audiobooks with our busy lives. I'd love to stay connected. Please feel free to add me on LinkedIn or message me, email me. And finally, check out the website so you can get your hands on all of those resources. So thank you again to SSPI for having me. So now let's get to the Q&A.
Awesome. You've already sold me on your book. I think I'm going to have to go buy it.
Thank you.
And I'm making notes for my career day presentation. So I hope all of you who do career days and outreach are making notes too.
Exactly. Career days are a perfect example.
So, we do have a few questions that Tamara has kindly helped flag for me
Lovely.
in the chat. There's actually been a lot of conversation on this topic back and forth. The conversation was started by Stephanie Roy, and she says, if it's an information problem related to the information that the girls are getting, we would have issues recruiting boys into engineering too. So but you know, there's a lot of people who've had experiences with their girls getting different kinds of information and seeing how they're interacting. Do you have any reflections on this?
Yeah, absolutely. So coming at it from a few different angles. So first off, you know, just on its face, girls, parents tend to sit down with their boys and tell them, hey, you got to be realistic, pick something that you can actually support your life on. Maybe you shouldn't pursue your underwater basket weaving pottery path. Maybe that can be your hobby. Go be a lawyer, doctor, engineer instead, right? And by contrast, girls don't get that same messaging as much. You know, we see a lot more people just sort of agreeing with whatever the girl's most interested in, and then just saying, oh yeah, it totally doesn't matter. You can be a dancer and you can totally afford an apartment in New York to do that, right? And it's a little bit different there. And then also, there's well-documented differences when it comes to girls' responses to stress. There's a lovely book called Under Pressure by Lisa D'Amour, if I'm pronouncing it right. And she talks about how, the levels of anxiety, and this book was written before COVID, so keep that in mind. Before COVID, the levels of anxiety in girls were rising year over year a lot as compared to boys, which was staying about the same. And by contrast, the girls are suffering a lot more from anxiety and the fears associated with having to be the best and working with their peers and everything. And when it comes to the response to that anxiety, statistically, girls especially, their main coping mechanism is to just avoid it altogether. If something is stressful, just walk away from it. And to that aspect, if you scare them a little, they're gone. And that's not the same for boys. For the boys, you can emphasize a bit more of the, oh yeah, it's really hard, but you're the best and you can do it. And that is more well received than when you tell girls, oh yeah, it's really hard and you're going to be completely just demolished by everyone around you and no one's going to believe you can do it, but you can do it. And just the research shows it there. And I have a lot more studies that I reference in the book. I have about this, well, one of my bookcases, but it's about 4 cubes worth of just research books and papers on a lot of studies that actually already exist to show all of these things, but it just hasn't made its way into the public discourse or into a more, consumer media based way of understanding that.
Okay, thank you. Andrea, it's Maylitter, isn't it? I'm sorry, I always pronounce your name wrong, Andrea. She wants to know if the Goldilocks kits are actually helping or not with girls.
So I love the intent of the Goldilocks kits. They haven't shown any statistical significance yet. That doesn't mean they're bad, but it also can't show that they're good. And so, a lot of those two, I think when a lot of us heard about the Goldilocks, and for those of you that aren't familiar, there was a really, I think it was a TED Talk that when it became really popular of developing STEM toys for girls and making things that would help girls learn more about STEM careers. And that was all well and good at the very beginning. And unfortunately, what we've seen with Goldilocks is they ended up going in more of the pinkification direction. So unfortunately, if you go online now and you try and search for buying a Goldilocks set, at least the last time I checked was probably like a year ago, most of their products are more of the science of makeup or making, lip gloss or, decorate your headphones for your computer, like you're a streamer. And those might be helping. I know when I was a kid, I loved little craft kits a ton. But if we can connect the dots of, being good with crafts actually translates to being good with fine detail and being good with organization of something or creativity or spatial reasoning, and then telling them from there that's something that they can pursue in engineering. They don't have to go into an art to do that. So the example I like to give is, if I were walking through a school and I saw girls at a lunch table folding origami, I'm not seeing, an artist. I'm seeing the beginnings of an engineer, because that's a very technical thing to get into. And it's something that's a really strong attention to detail, really fundamentally is like engineering types of things. I mean, we even have, right, for all of us in spacecraft development, there's a lot of surprisingly like applications of literally origami in space, right? We have the coolest deployments and we have the coolest folding, fit the biggest thing into the smallest area possible, like problem solving aspects. And so when we can translate those things that are more traditionally just seen as, you're going to go into the arts or even you're going to go into business, right? Because oftentimes you'll see the best girl in the class who's really good at working on teams and everyone wants her on their group project. She's going to get pushed more towards things like business, when in reality, the fact that she's demonstrating those skills will make her shoot up the ladder as an engineer, right? And so it's that translation. So in summary, I love the idea of Goldilocks. I don't know that the implementation has lived up to what everyone on the call would like.
Yeah, it's so true. I've noticed when I have giveaways that have like multicolor things, that the girls are starting to pick not the pinks and the purples, but all the other colors of the spectrum. And then I end up with a pile of pink things at the end that nobody wanted. So it's important that, you know, we emphasize that girls can pick not pink or purple.
Yeah. And also that they can, right? I think it's one thing to translate something and like a pink microscope is a little bit weird. Like they're all silver, let's be real. But you know, also that you can have bright colors and you don't have to just eliminate your femininity for it, right? Like I wear flowery shirts every day to work, and this book is as pink as it gets. I did not know that I was picking the Barbie color for the Barbie year, but I'm quite happy with that. But it's my favorite color and it's my book, so I'm gonna make it pink. And it's about girls, so it makes sense. But you know, just because we don't like pinkification means we have to eliminate it as a color entirely either. You know, honestly, it's the best color if you're doing inline responses on emails because no one else uses it. You use the pink fuchsia and it can be your color no matter what, because none of the guys are going to pick it. It's really, really helpful, but it is a brief side comment.
It's great. Do we want to open it up for questions, like verbal questions from the group as well? I don't know how we're doing on time.
Or
We have
type in
10
the
minutes.
chat if there's
more.
That's often faster than getting people to unmute.
I have a 365-day origami calendar at home because I love it. It sharpens your mind. It really does.
It's fun. Yeah.
So.
Oh, and I was one of those kids. I still in my childhood bedroom at home. There are some like I got really into like modular origami. So it's the like one simple piece, but then you make like a torus out of it, and you make all those pieces. You're like, yeah, this is a good accomplishment. And then you start putting it together, and you're like, wow, this is really hard. It's going to take me 3 times as long to put the thing together.
That's cool. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been a really great presentation and chat. I hope that you will actually join the STEM Outreach Working Group. We'd love to have you.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
And continue to join SSPI-WISE because we would love to have you with us as well.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Definitely want to get involved. I will be taking a hiatus between April and September, but other than that, I would love to help.
That is totally understandable. Jamia, did you want to talk about the scholarship really quick?
I thought you were going to talk about it.
Oh, I can. Yes. Tamara has secured 2 Satelit 2024 passes for us to offer as scholarships this year. So we have opened up the opportunity for college students to apply, or any student to apply to attend Satelit 2024 with one of these passes. The information is on the SSPI-WISE website, and it's a Google form. The application is a Google form. Applications close on February 15th, and then we will be selecting the winners. We'll let everybody know by March 1st if we'll be announcing the winners by then. These are executive passes, so they are very nice passes. And, it comes with an invitation to our SSPI-WISE happy hour and lunch with some SSPI-WISE members. It's a really great opportunity if you are going to be in the area in March. So if you know any young women or underrepresented genders that would like to apply for this, please please let them know because we need to get the word out. So, and I think Jamia and Vinny dropped some of the links in the chat. So if you're interested. So.
There's a question, Audrey, about whether or not international students can apply.
Yes, but we will not be able to provide travel support or lodging support. So if you want to apply, that's fine, but that would be on your own.
Yeah, so definitely check out the SSPI-WISE website for more information. There's everything that Audrey just mentioned and more. And also next month, we will also be talking about STEM again. So definitely go to the website, register for next month so you remember it. But we'll have Heidi talking about STEM as well. And if you're going to upcoming conferences, I know Satellite Symposium's coming up, as well as Satellite will be on us really quickly in March. SSPI-WISE will be there, so look out for more information about networking hours and getting to meet a lot of these folks that we see in boxes every month in person. So definitely check that out. And with that, I do want to give another thank you and round of applause to Julie.
Thank you.
This meeting was recorded, so we will be sharing the words and wisdom of Julie for many people to come, especially if they couldn't make it today and you thought this was great. Please share and let people know. Otherwise, I think that's it for today. Happy New Year again, and see you in February.
Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Julie, thank you again. I'm just going to wave at everybody and remind everybody, just a quick note, if you registered for today, which you all did, you're already registered for next month. So please make sure that you've downloaded the calendar notice that comes with the Zoom so that it loads it up in your calendar and you don't forget. Of course, I will send out reminders. We typically alternate between 11 o'clock Eastern and 2 p.m. Eastern, and however that translates to your time zone. And that's just, to accommodate the different time zones that we have. And so next month, we will be meeting at 2 p.m. Eastern. With that, have a great rest of today.
Lovely. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.